Hey there, welcome to the DFS Build NFL Edition, Thursday Night Football Edition. I am Kevin Roberts, joined with Taylor Smith. We're going to go over the DraftKings slate for the Rams and 49ers game, hopefully help you win. We certainly did that on the main slate last week. Had some really good Monday Night Football picks as well. I was all over RJ Harvey, so if you played him, hopefully he helped you out quite a bit. And I also like Fields, who got 28 fantasy points. So we've been doing a pretty good job here, and we hope to keep that going. If you're new to the channel here, we do break down the slates just like this, mostly for NFL. We did do it for MLB, but now that it's in playoffs, we're not doing that. But NBA is almost back. So get in on the action, subscribe to the channel, hit that like button, and also come join us in Discord, which is 100% free. And if you want access to our picks, you can hit up our website, which can be found in Discord as well. And by the way, if you like to play at prop sites and have not tried out Sleeper, you can check them out. Use our code BUILD. You get 100% match for a first-time depositor. And right now they also have a $20 free bet included in that process. All right, let's get to it. Thursday Night Football game. This can be ugly. It tends to be because it's a short week, and we do have two defensive-minded teams here. Worth noting, the last game where they played, it was 12-6. So I don't think we're headed for that. But it is a pretty big NFC West game. I believe the Rams, they're not undefeated. They're 3-1. I think the 49ers are also 3-1. So pretty big game. Taylor, where is your head at as far as like the game flow? Like where do you think this game is going? Do you think it's going into a defensive battle, or do you think we can bet on a shootout?
I don't really ever think a Thursday game is prime for a shootout. So it's kind of the nature of it, like 3 days off, short weeks. The Niners have injuries already. So I can kind of see it being a blowout. I don't think the Niners are very good at the moment, and I think the Rams are pretty legit on both sides. So I would lean toward a more defensive game, and I wouldn't be surprised if the Rams like tore them in this game.
The Rams are coming in as 7-point favorites at home here. So certainly I don't refute that logic whatsoever. Also, 49ers are not healthy. Like, by the way, the games they've won have been very close and not against really, top tier teams. Then they lost last week at home to the Jaguars. So I'm with you. I don't know if they're that good. They're also not healthy. George Kittle remains out. Brandon Ayuk remains out. They may not have all of Brock Purdy, Juwan Jennings, and Ricky Pearsall in this game. Like, those guys are all very questionable. They missed the walkthrough yesterday, so that's problematic. The 49ers have been known also, by the way, to kind of like limit their stars on a short week. I remember a couple of years ago, they had Christian McCaffrey having that amazing season, but on a Thursday night game, they scaled back his touches greatly. And that really fucked everything up as far as like if you're captaining McCaffrey. So all those things there. And now that we know that, where are you at? Like, who's your number one captain play going in? We have no idea what ownership is going to be, but I can assume it's going to be McCaffrey and Puka taking those top two slots. Of those two guys, where are you leaning?
From what I see, it looks like Puka is going to be quite a bit more owned. I see him around 25%, and the captain and McCaffrey more like 13%. So if that holds true, certainly McCaffrey. Like, I know the game script is not great for the Niners in theory, especially if they are without both receivers, their quarterback and stuff. Although I'm not sure their starting quarterback is significantly better than their backup, if he's better at all. So not the worst thing if Purdy misses. But if the ownership gulf between Puka and McCaffrey is significant, I would certainly play McCaffrey at a higher clip in a multi-entry than Puka. While still, like, you can't really fade Puka. He's kind of an odd guy. It's just a matter of whether you play him in the flex or the captain. As of now, I think I will have plenty of exposure to both in captain, but as of now, I would lean C-Mech for the
I think that's something we just naturally will do a lot. Like, if Puka is going to come out and double McCaffrey's ownership, McCaffrey and captain is an easy call. So I'm with you there. I think we're both aligned as far as like, we're not fading Puka or McCaffrey on this slate. Probably, like, if you're not going to captain them, great. I like that a lot in general, because then you have instant leverage. If they don't absolutely nuke the slate, then, and by the way, there's an argument that both of them will not. Like, if you go and look at the matchup against the Rams are stopping the run, and they're also limiting running backs in terms of pass catching, like, by a lot. So it's just a really, really bad spot, and it's on the road on a short week. So even though Christian McCaffrey's put up 20 fantasy points or more in every single game this year, and probably will again, this is definitely a game where you could start betting against it to a certain degree. I still don't want to bet against it so much that I'm not playing Christian McCaffrey. So where are you there? Are we aligned in that if you're not captaining them, you're still playing them both in the flex?
Probably. I mean, you still need the raw points.
Right.
And if you fade them, your lineups are going to project real poorly, just because these are like the two kind of weekly smash guys in the league right now. Like, if it was a main slate, we'd be talking about playing these guys a ton.
Yep.
So I think on a showdown slate, it's kind of a no-brainer. I'd be pretty scared to fade either of them. Certainly you can in a large field. Maybe C-Mac gets hurt. Maybe Puka gets hurt. Both have been known to get a little banged up. It's not impossible. And it's football. But just looking at it now, assuming they're both going to be healthy enough to play the whole game, I would be pretty nervous about fading either of them. I don't think you absolutely have to captain one of them. Certainly there are other ways to play both of them without captaining one of them. But as far as fading one altogether, I'd be not very into that.
Agreed. By the way, that last game that they played, they did have everybody on both sides except for McCaffrey, as we know. And that game was just pure field goals. So absolutely disgusting. 12-6 on field goals. Anyways, we are aligned there. We're going to play McCaffrey and Nacua one way or the other. I do think there is a really it's really advantageous on this slate in particular because the ownership is so concentrated that if we're still playing them, I think we can find a couple of guys here that we feel good about in captain besides them. And they actually could, allow us to build a good roster instead of like eating expensive Puka or McCaffrey and just having to really dive deep here. Although I will also say that because of the Juwan Jennings Pearsall thing, there's a lot of value here that we normally would not want to stomach that suddenly is in play, whether you captain or hit in flex. Before we get to that, though, I think Devontae Adams is like the most clear leverage on Puka and McCaffrey. Probably going to garner the third most ownership on the slate, but I think he looks awesome. He's been pretty good in like 3 out of 4 games on the year. Obviously, Puka gets most of the targets, but Devontae has proven that he can eat in this offense. So I am liking him a lot. Where are you at on Devontae?
Yeah, I mean, Matthew Stafford, the Rams have a very concentrated offense. Like, we know that Matthew Stafford's going to throw to 2 guys, and the third one would be Kyren Williams, obviously getting the majority of the work on the ground. So I think my favorite way to get leverage on the Puka captain is actually Kyren Williams, because I feel like he's going to be lower owned than Devontae. But, Devontae's 26% target share is still higher than any pass catcher, any receiver, or tight end on the 49ers. So you're getting the wide receiver 2 on the Rams, who still gets more volume than anyone on San Francisco except McCaffrey. So there's still a pretty high floor. There is obviously a high ceiling. He's also gotten a lot more red zone targets than Puka so far. I expect that to level out a little bit, but that's the reason they brought in Adams, because he's a big, tall red zone target for a guy like Stafford. And Puka, they kind of manufacture looks, handoffs, quick hitters over the middle, things like that, just to get him as involved as possible. But as far as deep balls and red zone stuff, it's pretty much been exclusively Adams so far. So I like him quite a bit, but like I said, I think I do like Kyren a little bit more.
Yeah, you stole my thunder a little bit there. I do like Kyren a lot too. It is going to be interesting to see where the ownership lies. Like, it's kind of the same thing. Like when we see Puka's super owned, let's go play McCaffrey. But if we get to a spot where Adams is that third guy with ownership and Kyren is fourth, or even maybe more further down the line, because obviously as the quarterbacks in the game, Purdy and Stafford are going to get some ownership. Well, it'll be interesting to see where it is, because Kyren does look good in terms of volume and touchdown equity. The matchup isn't amazing, but last week Travis Etienne did pop on them quite a bit. So it wouldn't be that shocking if Kyren had success here. But I was saying before how like sometimes these Thursday night games, because it's a short week, the teams will scale back a little bit. Are you at all concerned that Kyren might not get the volume that makes him valuable, and like somebody like Blake Corum could end up being a little bit sneaky here?
Yeah, I mean, I'm concerned. I was pretty invested in Corum last week. So Williams last week. So seeing Corum get 9 carries and 2 catches and 4 targets was quite tilting. They did use a third round pick on Corum. He was good in college for Michigan, so it's not like he's a nobody necessarily. Yeah, I mean, Corum got 8 carries a week before, so it's not all last week either. I do think it's concerning, but Williams is still playing like at least 70% of the snaps most weeks. short week, like you said, could throw a wrench into that. I'm not really inclined to roll the dice on Corum as captain, but I would still play Williams as captain even with Egram.
Yeah, I agree. I think I would just I think that would just make me a little bit more willing to take a shot on Corum in captain, just because you just never know, and also just be a little bit more exposed to him in the flex depending on where his ownership falls. So I'm definitely thinking about that, and I want to play him a little bit more than the field, assuming he's not chalk like in the flex ultimately. Let's kick it over to the quarterbacks. So Brock Purdy, Matthew Stafford. We've talked about this before, by the way. We're like, you always want to play Puka on a Puka slate. But you don't really have to play Stafford with him because Stafford has no rushing upside. And unless Stafford throws for 300 plus yards and 3 or 4 touchdowns, he's just not going to hit. And if you go look at their game logs, very, very frequently, Puka will have like 26 fantasy points and Stafford won't even sniff 18. So you do not need to stack them any other time, and you don't need to stack them today. But in the last game, he made me look stupid because he definitely went off. He had like 370 yards because he popped an 88-yard touchdown to Tutu Atwell out of nowhere to absolutely nuke. But my stand is, whether you captain Puka or not, I don't think Stafford is a complete necessity. It's not a great matchup, and you just don't need that stacking there. Where are you at on Stafford?
Yeah, I didn't get to him either, even on the afternoon slate. Like, I played the afternoon slate. I had all the Puka. I had plenty of Devontae. I had a lot of Kyron. I had exposure to pretty much every quarterback on the slate except Stafford was the one I omitted because I was just like, well, I don't think I need him. I don't think I need a guy who's going to get, 20 points if things go really well. And of course, the 2-2 thing happened at the end, both tilting. But he's fine. Like, the upside's obviously there. I think Purdy is a pretty similar play. Neither is going to get a whole lot of rushing. Purdy might get a little more, but he's also banged up with a toe thing, so maybe he won't.
That's a good point.
It's the kind of thing, like, I always make these rules on showdown slates. Like, if I do have a pocket passer like Dak or Stafford or Brock Purdy in the captain, I will make a rule to pair him with at least 2 pass catchers, because if he is going to put up a score that nukes in captain, obviously he needs help, and those touchdowns have to go to somebody, assuming he's not getting them on the ground. So I'm not going to get a ton of the quarterbacks in captain, I don't think. I might get a little more Mac Jones if he starts. I think he's cheaper than Purdy, which makes that a little more interesting. But yeah, the quarterbacks really do not look great to me in this game. I think there are a lot of ways to play it. The quarterbacks are always owned as well in captain. I don't think they'll be mega owned just because of Puka and McCaffrey this week, but I'm pretty under. Like, if I play them at all, it'll be in flex probably.
Yeah, I agree completely. I just, in general, I'm going to go Purdy over Stafford just because he does have that, in theory, rushing floor. It hasn't really been there, and there's the toe thing. So those are fair points. You gotta consider that before you make that decision. I just think in general, though, Purdy at least has a little bit more of a ceiling than Stafford would provide. I also am with you on not really captaining them. I think they're fine in the flex. Like, if you're going to play Puka and Puka Rex, it's reasonable to expect Stafford to have a decent game, right? But if Purdy is going to get there, it's probably meaning that one of those cheap guys are also smashing, which would allow us to just load up with all these studs. You can go get Puka and McCaffrey and Kyron and everybody if Demarcus Robinson or somebody just nukes. So I'm with you. I think they're fine in the flex, but I'm really not captaining either of them either. All right, so the 49ers wide receiver situation is pretty compelling here. Obviously, Ayuk and Kittle are still out. Debo's in Washington. Pearsall said his knee felt unstable. So, I mean, like, I don't know why the hell you'd play him on a short week. So I like Pearsall as a talent. He's been really productive. He's he's like their Debo, like, in this, as far as like how they're moving around as a wide receiver anyways. He does everything. He can hit from every angle. But I don't think he's going to play in this game. So if I had to predict it, I think Juwan Jennings has a much better chance of playing. So right away, if Pearsall's out and all this ownership is going to McCaffrey and Puka and trickling down to these other guys we talked about, Juwan Jennings looks like a smash play for me at captain. Where you stand on him, and what do you think about Pearsall?
Yeah, I'm actually getting a lot of Jennings and captain as of now, even with Pearsall projected in. And I think it's just a salary thing. Like, he's 9,900 on DK. He's way cheaper than Kyron. He's way cheaper than Puka, McCaffrey, Devontae, the quarterbacks. Even Pearsall's more expensive. And when he's played, the 2 games he's played, he's got okay volume. Obviously, he stands to get more if Pearsall is out. We saw last year, I think he had a mega smash game in a situation like this. Matchup's tough. The Rams have not really given up a whole lot. Looked a little vulnerable last week, though. Adonai Mitchell had something to say about that. They probably should have given up more, but you know how that goes. Yeah, I agree. I think he's a really good play, even if Pearsall's in. If Pearsall's out, he's going to get steamed a little bit, but I still don't think he'll get a lot of captain traction. So I will probably be over the field on that.
100%. You and me both, man. And like, if Pearsall plays, I think you can go get him. Like, obviously, he's a fine captain play too. Certainly okay in the flex. I would be a little bit worried about putting Pearsall in too many lineups. If he's really that banged up, I mean, the word unstable is not good. Like, for a knee, like, I don't like that. So I would probably just make an executive decision for myself and I like Ricky Pearsall. I want to play him, but I'm probably going to stay away from him and really double down on Jennings, assuming he is in. Now, what if one or both these dudes doesn't play? And we're looking at Demarcus Robinson. I think MVS is on this roster. We're looking at Sky Moore. What the hell is this? Like, this is insane. So where are you at on these guys? Like, do you have any interest in them if those guys are healthy? And how confident are you in playing them or even captaining them if either one of them end up missing?
I mean, I think if Pearsall and Jennings are out, that they're probably just going to get steamrolled, because how are they going to throw the ball? Like, MVS, Sky Moore. Sky Moore does not seem to be an NFL receiver, but he keeps bouncing around and winding up on teams. I guess just because there will be some volume and they're cheap, you kind of have to consider it. MVS, obviously a deep threat kind of guy. Takes one play for him to pay off. So I really don't mind that. It's obviously not comfortable. Kendrick Bourne is another one who's here.
Right.
He might actually be the wide receiver 1 if Pearsall and Jennings are out. Which
yeah, I think you're very right. I didn't name him, but absolutely he would be the first one I think you'd be clicking. But I'm curious,
I think
just
he'd be
like
the one I'd feel most comfortable with, but that's not really saying a whole lot. I think obviously
right.
It's a very unknown situation. So embracing that no one knows what's really going to happen kind of means you can play with it, get different with it. Demarcus Robinson revenge game, by the way. And then, you know, there are a lot of ways to build if Pearsall and Jennings are out. And I don't think just the unknown makes it such that there's no bad play. No one knows what the good play is.
I'm not. Is MVS in the player pool? I'm not seeing him in here. Maybe just does
something. I see him 2,600. He's probably not projected.
Okay, he's just not projected. Okay, so I can't pull him up right now, but I will say he had to do some spot starts with the Saints. I think it was last year, and he actually was pretty productive. So like, he is a deep.
I remember that.
Yeah, I know he is a deep ball guy. Like, I'm a Packers fan. I watched him play in Green Bay. He drops passes, but he's like constantly open, and he can make huge plays. So like, he just is still the same guy. He can run really fast down the field. That's all he does. So like, if he is going to have a role and he's out there, they're going to take some shots. Like, I don't mind it. I think that's an interesting captain play. Would I have a ton of exposure to him in captain or in flex? No, I wouldn't. But I do think he is really sneaky if we get to a situation where one of those main guys or both end up sitting. Because like you said, Bourne is much safer. And then you have Demarcus Robinson, who's also much safer. And I would definitely get more exposure to those two. But MVS would be very sneaky. Sky Moore is the one that I wouldn't really have a lot of interest in. Like, his draft profile was pretty good, like pretty, fast twitch guy. Like, he's supposed to be a good athlete, but nothing has translated whatsoever. But technically all those guys are in play, but that is kind of like the order of operations for me. There's also the tight end situation. They got that other guy. They got that guy. I forget his name.
Thomas.
Yeah, so he just had like 16 fancy points last week. He's also questionable.
Yeah, I was watching that game from the TV was kind of far away, and I saw a white guy. It was like a screen for a white guy rumbling into the end zone. I was like, oh, good, McCaffrey.
No.
And pops up, touchdown, Jake Tonjes. And it was one of the worst moments of my entire life.
Yeah, that's absolutely brutal. So, yeah. I mean, he's viable if he's in. He's questionable, so keep an eye on his status. If he's out, we're looking at Luke Farrell and something called a Braden Willis. Like, what is this? The 49ers are decimated.
Luke Farrell, I think he scored in like week 1, but he's
not.
I think that was his first NFL touchdown. He's not.
I'm
not going to call design screens for Luke Farrell. Maybe they will. I hope they don't. But I guess we can consider him for 1,600. I think one cheap guy I don't mind is Jordan Whittington, 1K flat. He played 80% of the snaps last week for the Rams. Doesn't get volume. Obviously, like we said, it's all Adams and Nakua, but 1K flat, on the field plenty. Anything can happen in a 1-game sample.
Yeah, I mean, look at Tutu Atwell.
Yep.
What's your interest there? My knee-jerk reaction is to just stay away. Like, that's not going to happen again.
Yeah, he got a lot of work. I remember when I think Cooper Kupp was out, but if Puka and Adams are in, they're just not throwing anyone else. And if people are going to play him because of that, because of the one catch he had last week, I'm not going to pay that.
Yep, 100% with you. Okay, so before we wrap up here, let's kick it back to the positions that nobody actually wants to talk about. Kickers and defense. The game doesn't actually have like a very low total. The 49ers just have a low team total. I think it's 19.75. So they are on the road. It's not a good matchup, and they have a bunch of injuries. That all makes sense. But I think like because of their game plan or their system and their coaching, I do think they could move the ball enough to get their kicker in position here. So both their kicker and Josh Riccardi on the other side, I think, are very viable for a short week Thursday night football game, as is always the case, as was the case the last time these two teams faced off. So I'm definitely into them. And, of course, both defenses are viable. I'm sure you lean with me more towards the Rams, but give your thoughts on those 4 options on this slate.
Yeah, I think – Cardi's going to be more owned than Pinheiro just because the Rams are favored and they're at home and stuff. But it is that pseudo dome in LA, so good conditions for kickers and stuff and offense in general. So I don't mind that. If Pinheiro is going to be way lower owned, they're pretty similar price. I think you can just make that pivot, I guess. But generally, don't really think through kickers that often. Obviously, if the Niners have no Purdy, no Pearsall, no Jennings, no Tonjes, whoever, then the Rams defense is going to get steamed up quite a bit from an ownership standpoint. I think it might still be popular to begin with. But it's hard to hate that. If it's a series of backups playing for the Niners, then obviously the LA defense is in a really good spot.
Yeah, I will mention Tyler Higbee too. 5 targets last game. 49ers are bottom 10 against tight ends. I don't feel great about it, but he's there and he's not very expensive. All right, so to wrap things up here, who's your number one play that you're getting to the most on this slate?
I'm not going to say Puka and McCaffrey because that's really lame and easy. I think our call with Jennings at captain, if he's in, regardless, like even if Pearsall's in, I like Jennings at captain. If Pearsall's out, more people will like that. But I still think compared to Puka and the other high big names in this game, it's going to be pretty low owned. So Juwan Jennings captain for all the Tostitos.
Yeah, I don't want to sound even lamer by copying you. I'll say that, but also Devontae and Kyron are very interesting. I also want to point out for anybody who's not really accustomed to Showdown or just thinking they need to get like a massive edge, like number one, you can play Puka or McCaffrey and captain and still win. Like obviously if they smash, but you don't also have to seek out like massive leverage by going and playing like punts or bad plays. You can just roster Puka and McCaffrey and just get like Devontae, Kyron, and Juwan Jennings. Even if they get ownership, they probably are going to be maximum 10% owned, if not probably half of that, just because so much ownership is going to 2 dudes on a slate. So, I mean, where do you stand there? Are you kind of in the same line of thinking where if you're not playing Puka or McCaffrey, you kind of can do whatever you want and just not even worry about the ownership?
Yeah, you probably can. It is, the tournaments for NFL are so massive that there's still a pretty good chance you're going to be duped, but certainly fading both in captain is going to be fairly different.
Yep, true that. All right, that does it for us. Hopefully it does help you out. If it does, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. Both those things help us out quite a bit. Also consider joining our Discord, which is 100% free. And if you do play props at all, you can hit up Sleeper, use our code BUILD, take advantage of that. All right, thanks for watching and good luck.